And welcome back to Bay Sunday, everyone. Our next guests have a film currently being featured at the Mill Valley Film Festival. The documentary is called The Barber of Birmingham and zeroes in on the civil rights movement of the 1960s, unfolding through the eyes of Alabama barber activist James Armstrong. Here to discuss the film in further is the director and a Bay Area photographer, Robin Friday, and the main subject's grandson, Darren Armstrong, out of Louisville, Kentucky, currently going to school in Tennessee. Welcome to Bay Sunday, you guys.
Glad to be here.
Good to have you here too. Well, talk about the documentary first. Why? Why did you do it, and how'd you end up in Alabama?
Great question. So I'm a photographer, but we were heading into the election of Obama in 2008, and I started to think about the people who brought us to this day, and mainly the foot soldiers, who are the unsung heroes, those who risk their lives and many times their livelihoods to fight for the right to vote and to fight for civil rights. And so I decided to take a trip to Alabama, where much of the civil rights movement started. And so I met a lot of foot soldiers, and I was introduced to Mr. Armstrong, who had his barbershop since the early 1950s and had dedicated his life to the fight for civil rights, integrating his two sons into an all-white elementary school, carrying the original flag on Bloody Sunday, and so he became the person that this story is told through.
And did you know immediately, like, oh my goodness, you are the man?
Exactly. I saw him, and he was wearing his bow tie and his hat,
He's a dapper
suspenders. Dude. He is a dapper dude. And when I started to I first looked into his barbershop, which was covered with memorabilia from the civil rights movement.
Newspaper clippings, everything.
Every inch of the walls was covered. And then started to talk to him and learned about his personal struggle and his family's struggle, and knew that he was the one.
And Darren, you're going to be very proud. This is your grandpa. You're going to have this forever. And sadly, he passed away, what, a few years ago, was it? Or
yeah, he passed away, and shortly, almost a year after Obama was in office, inaugurated.
And did he have a chance to see any of the documentary, or?
He actually, I can answer that only because I took a sample to him. We had a sample of it, and I showed it to him on a laptop, which I don't think he'd ever seen a laptop. And he watched it, and he cried, and he pointed out, he said, "This is my life's work." And then he wanted to watch it again.
I bet he did. And again.
And again.
Well, talk about your grandpa. What was he a storyteller? I mean, what was he like?
Gosh, was he a storyteller? Ever since I was little, you know, I had a very early introduction to the civil rights movement. You know, my grandfather talking about, you know, times when, you know, their dogs were poisoned, times when, you know, the fire trucks would come through and shine the lights through, but then also, you know, more importantly about the movement, what it stood for. And, you know, he always was just talking to me about, you know, responsibility, and always, you know, why he fought and why he thought it was important to, you know, strive for civil rights and rights, you know, that were for everybody, so that we could live in an equal a nation. But, you know, he always had any historical story, you know, funny stories. I remember he did tell me, you know, times when Dr. King would come to Birmingham, you know, my grandfather would cut his hair. People would be lined outside of the barbershop looking in.
I bet.
But he was a very, he could be a jovial man. You know, he could, you know, we shared our own jokes about politics we would talk about, or, you know, just, you know, he was very ardent about, you know, pull up your pants, young man, you know, continue to do well in school. You know, he was a great guy, you know, an ordinary man who did extraordinary things. And, you know, it was a blessing to have this film. It was a blessing to have Robin and Gail come into his life.
Because you have that forever.
Right.
And don't want to interrupt, but we do have a clip before we run out of. Let's run a little clip from the documentary. And here it is, right here.
Everybody's smiling. All right. I'm going to get me a bacon and eggs biscuit. All right, young man, how about it?
I'm doing all right.
Okay.
Well, he was the dean of Birmingham. He was a barber, so we knew he had the gift of gab. And someone you collaborated with had a lot to do with this, right? And she sadly passed away before it was done, too, right?
She did. She did. She passed away. This is actually the one-year anniversary of her passing. And Gail Dolgen was a great documentary filmmaker and a great person, and to me, a great mentor.
Well, that's great. Did any of your perceptions of the civil rights movement change because of this? And just a quick 10 seconds here.
Very, very much so. And I think that I keep with me many of the things that Mr. Armstrong said in his closing words of the film. I want to live for a purpose.
Very good. Well, it's awesome. I wish you well. Academy Award, maybe they knocked on your door, perhaps?
Well, it has been announced that we are on the short list, so
doesn't get any
keep
better
our
than
fingers
that.
crossed.
I bet your grandpa's smiling upstairs.
He is.
No
He's
doubt
very
about
happy that his story is being told and that everybody can understand just exactly what the movement was about.
Very good. Okay, if you'd like to view The Barber of Birmingham tonight at the Mill Valley Film Festival, more information on the film festival, log on to mvff.org. And to find out more about the film specifically, log on to barberofbirmingham.com. That's it for another edition of Bay Sunday. We will see you again next week, and don't forget to like us on Facebook. Thanks for watching.